Welcome back to Faith on Film, where we raid your church library and search for the good stuff. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Nathan. And it's October once again, so it's time for another Dabble in the Dark. You know what's really scary? Scapegoating. Anthropologist Renee Girard postulates...
Nathan, keep it brief.
But mimetic desire...
Nathan?
Fine. It's when you place blame on an innocent party so you have a convenient target to ostracize. Happy?
And on that note, Dungeons & Dragons paranoia! In 1979, a University of Michigan student named James Dallas Egbert disappeared from his school's campus and was last seen in the university's steam tunnels. He was a child prodigy, majoring in computer science, and was enrolled at the university in spite of only being 16. While the police investigated, his parents sought the help of a private investigator by the name of William Deere. Deere learned that Egbert played D&D on occasion, and sometimes the students would LARP in the university's steam tunnels. And not really knowing anything about the game, he theorized that Egbert's disappearance was a result of a D&D session gone wrong. This ended up not being true. However, this is the version that the media heard, this is the version they ran with, and the damage was done. What was previously a relatively obscure game was suddenly under national scrutiny. A scrutiny that never completely went away. Enter today's other major player, Jack Chick.
Jack T. Chick was a comic artist who, after converting to Christianity, decided he wanted to make his own comics with the intent of converting others. His first was published in 1960, and it spawned a franchise that continues to this very day, even though Jack Chick himself died 2 years ago. His tracks... How do I put this? They don't portray Christianity's opponents very honestly. There's an entire tract all about how the Catholic Church was created by Satan and has been sinisterly guiding world affairs throughout all of world history, including being directly responsible for the rise of Islam, Nazis, the Russian Revolution, and Freemasons. Yeah. He also wrote a tract about Dungeons and Dragons called Dark Dungeons in 1984. While it's been currently out of print since its 2013 rewrite, the Chick Publication Company still stands by its anti-RPG stance. And the tract itself has become one of their most famous due to its association with one of the most popular RPGs to date. To the point that it's even eclipsed the original books inspired by Egbert's disappearance.
Nathan, do you want to fill the class in on what exactly D&D is?
Dungeons and Dragons is basically sitting around with your friends and using your imagination to collectively tell a story. Well, it is! It's set in a fantasy realm, so you have sorcerers, elves, demons...
And dungeons. And dragons.
Yes. Naturally. So, people on the... let's just say on the further right have a tendency to assume that the game is about actually communing with demons, learning black magic, and training players to act savagely in real life. This is not true. There's what's called an alignment chart, where characters range from lawful good to chaotic evil. So, sure, some characters do some messed up things, but some don't.
And besides, it's make-believe. This is no different than playing a villain in a play or in a movie. For example, I'm pretty sure Sir Anthony Hopkins has never actually cannibalized anybody.
You mean to tell me that the people behind this paranoia have a hard time distinguishing fantasy from reality?
All this attention to Dark Dungeons got it its own official movie adaptation from Zombie Orpheus Productions. What do we got?
Why is this page in Latin?
I have no idea. It's geeky. That's what we're going with. It's geeky.
They appear to be pretty avid fantasy buffs, including having their own series called Journey Quest, which is a bit redundant now that I think about it. So it seems a bit odd at first glance that they would be interested in this property. Producer Ben Dobbins said they wanted to present the other side of the gaming debate honestly by presenting their points and opinions straightforwardly as possible. And this is oddly enough why the film winds up working. Had it just been a straight up parody of Chicks Tract, it wouldn't have had the same earnestness that it does. But no, it is as straightforward an adaptation as you could get. It's borderline on the level of Watchmen in terms of accuracy of adaptation.
All the major story elements are here. Player is taken to a secret coven. Her proficiency in the game gets her to the point where she starts casting spells in real life. A character gets rejected from the game and commits suicide. And even the suicide note in question is a straight up recreation of the font in the tract itself. That's some good attention to detail there.
What I find most impressive, though, is that they go so far as to pull in other bits of Chick's worldview. Because it is such a short story in the original comic, had they just beat for beat adapted it, it would have been like 5-10 minutes rather than the 40 minutes that the film actually runs. So we have added dialogue, including
are steadily progressing toward our one world government.
I am excited to announce that this year more people have decided to be homosexuals than ever before in history.
Wait, Marcy, didn't you learn Arabic? You needed it to convert the Muslims, who didn't realize they were actually worshipping the moon god.
and even an added scene where what appears to be Marcy's ghost comes and beckons Debbie to hell, saying, "It's one big party!"
Not all of this is in Dark Dungeons, but this is in a Chick tract somewhere.
They even pull in some aesthetic elements from other tracks. Namely, this castle where the Cabal of Satanists hang out is nearly identical to the one where the vampires convene in First Bite. Hello, this is editing stage Nathan. I realized as I was working on this that while what I said was accurate, it is much more likely that they just based this castle on the one on the cover of Dark Dungeons, the comic. So, sometimes you miss the forest for the trees. My bad.
In accurately representing Chick's mindset, they went above and beyond the Call of Duty here. We're starting to enter what YouTuber Lindsay Ellis likes to refer to as a satire paradox. In one of her video essays, she explained that even a not very flattering portrayal of a certain person or ideology can still be taken in earnest by said person's or ideology's following. Basically, people have a tendency to interpret art in a way that kind of already aligns with what they already believe. So, in other words, Obi-Wan was right.
Many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
How this applies to the film is that it plays everything so super straight, it winds up turning Chick's work into a satire of itself. Let me explain. It's one thing to just read one of these comics and go, well, this is kind of silly. It's another to have living, breathing people saying those exact lines, at that point it becomes very difficult not to go, okay, this is ridiculous.
Why? Because people don't talk like that in real life?
People do not talk like that in real life. No. And this is reflected in the actors' portrayals. Take, for instance, Mistress Frost. To deliver her lines with any sort of subtlety or subdued quality would be kind of bizarre. So instead, actress Tracy Hyland throws her hammiest energy into every line. And I love it.
Our protagonists are Debbie and Marcy, two Christian girls venturing off into college who are the best of friends whose lives are tragically destroyed by the game. Debbie in particular has a talent here for spellcasting, which results in her casting spells in real life to a point where she passes off a paper on Maven of the Eventide to her teacher, and he doesn't even notice. Wait a minute. Maven of the Eventide? As in the YouTuber we stole this bit from?
Oh.
The story treats role-playing as an addiction, with the usual results. Missed classes, failing grades, staying up all hours of the night. The usual. It's when we venture into LARPing that things really start to spiral into Crazy Town.
Rather than, a couple friends throwing wads of paper at each other, like real LARPing. This character, whose name I am not kidding is Nitro, bursts into the room in full costume and just starts strangling Marcy with his axe. Okay, Debbie wants to help but is unable to break character because she is busy fighting a zombie. Though, curiously, nobody has to act out being the zombie. Mistress Frost arbitrarily declares that Debbie has defeated the zombie. Sorry. Elfstar has defeated the zombie. And she then uses her magic powers to throw Nitro across the room. Then, Mistress Frost throws a poison dart in Marcy's neck and declares her character dead. And so she must leave the game. Forever. This inevitably leads to her hanging herself in their dorm room later that night.
Jack, suicide is a very delicate subject that you must handle with some degree of tact and intelligence. You can't just throw it in willy-nilly like that.
Since when does Jack Chick care about things like that?
Point taken.
Mistress Frost says that Marcy was too weak to survive, implying that RPGers believe in some sort of social Darwinism. She remarks that Marcy was only good for reading the Necronomicon and summoning Cthulhu.
Hold it!
Oh.
Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Cthulhu.
I'm not gonna lie. This is not that well integrated. Cthulhu is not in any Chick tract. He's in the parody Chick tract, Who Gets Eaten First, but that's not from Chick Publications.
This would be sort of like if the third act of The Last Temptation of Christ was how the Gospel according to St. Matthew ended, wouldn't it? You want to explain the difference between Satan and Cthulhu?
Okay. Satan is a malevolent figure in Christian theology who wants to draw mankind into sin and corruption, ultimately leading to their damnation. Cthulhu, while certainly destructive toward mankind, is actually more apathetic to it. He's one of the foremost of the old gods in H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. And he's basically the personification of the universe's indifference towards us. He will wipe out the entirety of human civilization upon waking up without even thinking about it. Not the same thing.
What's funny is it would have worked just fine to have the Necronomicon summon Satan directly. But it's not exactly like Jack Chick didn't have some out there ideas.
Remember the Catholic Church thing I mentioned earlier?
Right. So this should work, but by switching out Satan for Cthulhu, you kind of get a little memey, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it feels like the one time that they make a joke at the expense of accurately portraying Chick Publications' worldview.
It doesn't really
And
work.
for that, it kind of takes me out. Like, it's funny in the moment to go, what? Cthulhu? What? But it just doesn't fit. And it's not even like you can say, oh, this is Satan. He just looks like Cthulhu. No, they point blank identify this being as Cthulhu, so...
Could Satan fight Cthulhu?
Sure.
Can he look like Vincent Price while doing it?
Sure.
Cool! Then the movie comes back down to earth a little and ends like the original track does. Debbie rejects the game, accepts Jesus as her Lord and Savior, and upon her minister's instructions, goes out and with a big group they collectively burn all of their evil books. All of Harry Potter, all of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. Yeah, Chick was that guy.
Lewis?
Yeah.
Acclaimed Christian author, Lewis.
Yes.
The guy that evangelicals today quote often enough you would think he was a canonized part of Scripture. That Lewis.
Yes.
You know what? Fine. You want to be so paranoid, Jack, that you're going to reject somebody playing on your team as playing for the enemy? Be my guest.
Well, but he published Narnia, and as we all know, fantasy is evil. You know, I kind of go back and forth on whether I pity Jack Chick or not. When you're that paranoid about the world around you, when everything that you don't understand or don't like is out to get you, that really is a miserable way to live.
And that cloistered attitude leads Chick and team to not do any research into the things that they talk about. Mm-hmm. Which is why Dark Dungeons is as popular as it is, because of the myriad things it gets wrong about Dungeons and Dragons.
Care to elaborate?
First of all, while losing a character can be upsetting, it is not the life-shattering event that it's portrayed as. Just get a new character sheet, join a new campaign with the same character, or if there's a necromancer in the party, get resurrected. Second, and this is more exclusive to the film, unless your dungeon master is a controlling prick, you should have more say in what your character is and who they are than it's just handed to you with no negotiations on the first day. Third, rogue classes don't learn spellcasting unless they're an elf, because complicating matters is that the fact that the track came out during Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, whereas what we have now is 5th edition. So the rules are a bit different, but suffice it to say, unless they're in elf, rogue classes do not learn spellcasting, which is what Blackleaf is. Fourth, or something! Debbie says she doesn't want her life to be controlled by that lousy D&D manual, which is absurd, because the D&D manual is A, not a guide for life, but a guide to how to play the game. B, when was the last time a player besides the dungeon master looked at the manual on an occasion when they weren't looking for a loophole anyway? And if Debbie wouldn't be that far ahead of Marcy in terms of leveling up, unless Marcy had missed several sessions in a row because the party shares XP as the adventure goes on!
You gonna be okay? Okay, you know, I kind of want to talk about Marcy a little bit more.
You know, she's kind of cute. Can I roll for persuasion to see if I can ask her out?
You're gonna have to roll a nat 20 for that.
Why? Oh, she gay!
Well, there's subtext there anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty heavily implied that Marcy has an unrequited affection for Debbie, from the long lingering looks to this choice bit of dialogue.
If we don't go to this party, you and I would be spending all Saturday alone together in our dorm room. And how much fun could we have doing that?
Not much, I guess.
That's right.
Oh yeah, she got it bad.
Remember what I said earlier about Egbert's appearance, James Egbert's disappearance having nothing to do with D&D? So as it turns out, he ran away to commit suicide because he was overwhelmed by the academic pressure in his life. He was majoring in computer science at the University of Michigan, and he was only 16. He was a prodigy. He struggled with depression, loneliness, drug addiction, and to top it all off, William Deere said later that he was struggling to come to terms with his homosexuality. Tragically, Egbert was successful in his third suicide attempt in 1980. And sufficient to say, many closeted LGBT plus youths are in danger of suicide.
When we said we were going to review this one, I don't think either of us expected it to get this heavy.
No.
So, sorry if you were expecting more jokes, but this is just where the rabbit hole of research led us. Suffice it to say, please don't pressure the people in your life to be a certain way or expect perfection from them.
Pick them up when they fail.
Yeah, let them know that you accept them anyway.
Depression and loneliness are real things.
Steph, I don't think we have much more to say on this subject. Shall we just move on to our rating for the movie?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, I think I'm going to give this one good enough. Don't get me wrong, it is funny, but I think that it's one of those movies that's probably funnier if you've played more D&D, which I really haven't. I think at best I've sat in on exactly one session once and didn't really participate otherwise. And then there's the Cthulhu thing.
For my money, the Cthulhu thing still really sticks in my craw as far as accuracy for the chick mindset. But even if I wasn't docking it points for that, it's not like I would call this a great short film. It's fine.
And it's funny.
It is funny. And as someone who has read a lot of chick tracks, I'm glad that this film adaptation exists and that the chick company signed off on it. That's the weirdest part of all of this. But I think, coming from the other direction, I'm also going to give it a good enough.
Okay, so here's Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay, here's the Silmarillion.
Thank you. And here's Feast of Crows.
Okay. Here's the Nightfall on Middle-earth. Listen to it after you read the book, not before.
Okay. I also got The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for you.
Okay. This is the Restaurant at the End of the Universe.
Excellent. Oh, and Season 1 of Bewitched.
Okay. Reconvene in a week to talk about all of these things?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Oh, and Attracted is not a tip, by the way. Bye!
Because the game has taught me to slaughter and murder and exterminate.
He also wrote a chick... Of course he wrote a chick track. They're all chick tracks.